Hey guys, another book review, How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere by Larry King. I didn't even know that that's not his real name. He goes by Larry King. That started on his radio career, and obviously he became famous as that. Really interesting book. I think it's important because no matter what you're doing, you need to talk to people, sell yourself, sell a product, entertain, whatever it is you're doing. Talking is extremely important. So there's critical points in your life where if your ability to talk or sell or approach a situation or de-escalate a situation or whatever is key to success. Larry King, he had a really long career talking to a lot of the most famous athletes, politicians, soldiers and commanders. He talked to everyone, religious leaders. So he's a really interesting guy, and he tells a lot of personal experience in here as far as like who he interviewed and mistakes he made, failures and things, and then successes, and who he looked at as like a good candidate and why for an interview, right? He has a little checklist of things that make a good interviewee and things that he's always looking for. One of which is humor, self-deprecating. So like he likes people who can laugh at themselves for whatever reason. The audience loves that. And so he always looks for those people who have confidence, they have something really interesting to talk about, something they're super knowledgeable about, and the ability to poke fun at themselves and make the crowd laugh because of their personal experiences. So I have like a million markers in here. I highlighted a ton of stuff, but it's most of it's really simple, like just good advice, but there are some concepts I'll discuss. First things he says, honesty. And he says it in the context of a personal story, basically saying that when you are vulnerable, because in his story he basically was thrown into the room with the mic without much experience, and it was go time, right? And he said that he'd be honest. He'd go in there and tell them exactly what happened, that I was walking down the hall, someone handed me these papers, and here's what I would say. Somebody handed me these papers, and now I'm on the mic, so bear with me, right? He says, when I do that, immediately the whole audience knows I've never done news. I don't know what's coming. I'm reading something that's strange to me. I don't know which camera to look at. Now the viewers are all in my boat. Basically, if you're vulnerable, people are kind. People feel a sense of empathy and want to connect or feel connected. Like, oh man, I feel bad for this guy, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen, right? So all of a sudden you've got their attention and their empathy, and it's a good way to start. Besides willing to work on it, you need at least two ingredients to be a good conversationalist: a sincere interest in the other person and openness to them about yourself. So you've got to be really curious. Like, you want to know their story and act like you are interested, and they will enjoy it a lot more and be willing to share. But they're also more willing to share if they know something about you, if they're comfortable with you. So he talks about ways to make people feel comfortable, and that's a big piece of the book. He covers everything from radio and TV to family parties, work parties, one-on-one conversations in your normal life. He goes through all the public speaking, goes through different scenarios, and he's done it all. Like I said, he's had a very long career with a lot of success, so he's a good one to learn from. One thing, he had an interviewee that was very nervous, had a whole history of war, and he could tell he's extremely nervous. He didn't know why, but he got him talking about the present. And he says, but when we started talking about the present, there wasn't anything for him to be scared about. He was talking about what was going on in the studio at the moment, explaining how he felt. As he did that, the nervousness left him and his confidence returned to his normal level. When I could see that, I was able to get him to talk about the past. So someone who is nervous about the conversation, that they might be getting some tough questions, they might not have all the answers, it's a vulnerable place for them. Get them talking about something comfortable. What's around you? What's going on? How you feeling? Oh, how's your day, right? And then you progress into those things. Remember that people you are talking to are 100 times more interested in themselves and their wants and problems than they are in you and your problems. So sometimes, we want to just vent, but that can be really boring to someone, especially if they're distracted with something big on their mind. So make sure you're attentive and looking for their needs and wants and desires, and become interested and find ways to show your empathy in that, and that you're connected to what they're saying. I love what I'm doing. I mean, this is a theme that I've read in a million different articles and books about business and whatnot. You need to enjoy what you're doing. There's always that debate, like, do what you're passionate about or do what you're good at. Well, ideally you kind of find both, right? Something that you're passionate about and something you've got skills in, and then you can develop more skills, and as you become successful, it becomes more enjoyable, and both things happen, right? But he says, I love what I'm doing. You can't fake that, and if you try, you'll fail. If you really do love what you're doing and project that enthusiasm to the people you're talking to, the chances for success become greater. I like that he just says, like, the chances of success. I feel like, you don't just become successful by luck, but if you're prepared for those kind of random or seemingly lucky opportunities that come your way, then you'll be prepared to take those on. So it's like, there's a true sense of, like, man, I came across this opportunity, I took it, and it worked out, now I'm rich. I mean, there's a million people like that, but you have to be prepared as well, and enjoying what you're doing, and get that enthusiasm, and so the chances of your success go up. So many successful people have failed at some point. Show empathy. The people we most enjoy talking to are ones who enjoy empathy for us, who make clear they relate to what we're feeling as well as what we're saying. Empathy is so big in any conversation, in any success story. If you go back to my review on Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, like, empathy and vulnerability are like the two drivers for connection and success and creation and all these things. The art of selling. I didn't expect this chapter in this book because he's a radio guy, but I mean, that's salesmanship at its best, right? Everybody's selling something. You're selling yourself and your education, your experience every day in your job, whether you are actually a salesperson or something else. It doesn't matter. You're always selling something, and you should become good at it. And he says, you'll never sell any product that is important as yourself. So a lot of times, we all think, oh, I don't ever want to be a salesman or whatever, but you have to sell yourself in order to get hired, to get promoted, to get new customers, to, like, anything you do, you're selling yourself. Maybe I haven't done a good enough job of selling myself on these videos. I just have this bland, you can see half of my bed, and it's like my windows glaring up the picture or whatever. Like, I could do better at selling this. I talk crooked when I look in the camera, and I only talk with like one half of my mouth. I should fix that so that I'm more presentable, right? That everything seems just so perfect, right? And you're always selling yourself, and it's extremely important. Nothing is more important than selling yourself. So work on that. He early in the book, he says, everybody I talk to knows two things about me. What's his first one? That I'm from Brooklyn and I'm Jewish. Those are two simple things that everyone has kind of heard of. Okay, Brooklyn, I've been to Brooklyn, and you're Jewish. Oh, I know of the Jews, or I've met a few Jews, or I have some Jewish friends, or whatever, right? And he says the reason he says those, they are relatable, they're common, and I'm proud of them. So two things he's really proud about, and easy to just throw out there and get conversations started. So the last highlight that I'll read, there's so many in here, but this one's more of a concept. He says the best speakers, the best negotiators, the best people in any line of work all commit mistakes. In baseball, they even have a category for statistics for them, errors. So when you commit yours, don't let it fluster you. Remember the old saying, he who never makes a mistake seldom makes anything else. This is coming, he has an entire section of like bloopers and laughs and mistakes and things. And don't let failure stop you. It's failure, or fear of failure, is probably the biggest deterrent for most people's success. And there's no upside to that. Like, there's no upside to just like allowing fear of failure to stop you in your tracks. You'll just regret not having put forth your talent and effort and resources that you had available at the time. You'll just look back on it and be like, oh, I coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? You'll live a mediocre life. Not to say you won't be happy, but you won't be as happy, right? Looking back on your life, if you have tried your best, failed, probably tons of times, and then got back up and succeeded in certain areas, because you learn every time you fail. And failure is like, nobody even cares as much as you think they will, and as much as like it doesn't affect you in the same way that you thought it would. Like, after you look back on a failure, it usually becomes laughable, and you can say all the things that you've learned from having failed, and it makes you stronger, just because you kind of like realize, like, man, it was no big deal. The people didn't react the way I thought they would. I actually got a lot of empathetic support from people who were watching, which is usually your close relationships. And I learned a whole bunch of new things, and I found this new direction that I want to take my life. So failures are just a part of living. Just go through it. Just go. Like, don't let them stop you. Larry King has like an entire list of big failures on national TV and national radio, and he's still like considered one of the most successful talk shows ever. He's talked to amazing people from all over the globe, and we don't even really remember his failures, but he does, right? But we don't. So who cares? Just go for it and become successful. So, How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere. Larry King, The Secret of Good Communication. It's a good book. I recommend it. I'll put it on the website. I've already written up an article that's got several of his good quotes and kind of some of my brief take on the book. So head over to bronsonwilkes.com and check that out. I'll put the link below. I'll put a link so you can purchase your copy on Amazon, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. Anyway, thanks guys. I'll talk to you later.